Hey Phil, it's Jesse. I just wanted to respond to your video. I was originally going to leave a text comment, but I ended up going on for way too long, and I figured, well, I've kind of wanted to make videos, so why don't I make a video instead of trying to leave it in like 2 or 3 parts, because that's stupid. So, okay, I think that Barack Obama is the only candidate that can do what you said. You know, he can lead us. He's the only one that can lead us, the people, in taking responsibility and healing this poisoned nation, as you call it. And I agree. I used to have a great deal of respect for John McCain, but. And I kind of still have a little bit, but he's gotten increasingly hawkish, petty, erratic, and not to mention conservative with time. And it's kind of a little scary. He used to be this great guy, and he was, he stood for a lot of more moderate but more reasonable Republican values. You know, and he still does to a certain extent, but he's kind of like pandered, I think, a lot to the more conservatives in order to solidify his base, especially for this whole primary process. And I think he was a much better candidate in 2000, but he ended up running into some bad luck into some Karl Rove, and I don't know why he's doing so much better now than he did then, but I don't know. Then we have Romney, who I'll give him credit for actually answering the questions in debates when he's asked. As opposed to almost every other candidate, including Obama, does this, fairly often, where they'll just kind of go off on their own tangent. He will too a little bit, but he's pretty good with actually answering the question they ask him, even if he's completely lying the entire time, which he does in pretty much every single question. And you can like see it on his face, and somehow that doesn't resound throughout the media and the public. But to me, he really kind of exemplifies every negative stereotype of politicians that we have in this country. Next up, Ron Paul. I don't even want to get into Ron Paul. Ron Paul is kind of like a ridiculous candidate. I haven't really done too much research into some of the stuff that my friends have told me about his bigotry and racism, and something about him having a newsletter, and all that kind of stuff. I don't really know that much about that, but his policy ideas, while I applaud his idea of kind of disengaging with that whole war machine and spending our money on a lot of more domestic programs, I think that we have kind of gone far past the point of going back to the gold standard. I don't know why he thinks that he's some sort of modern day William Jennings Bryan, but he failed too, so I don't know. Anyway, now Hillary Clinton. While she has a lot of policy views and a lot of ideas that are very similar to the ones that are proposed by Senator Obama, I think that she still seems like a very scary candidate, because she just doesn't have the respect for the American people, and not only that, but the American Constitution and the Bill of Rights that many, even John McCain does, and certainly Barack Obama does, and that she seems to be kind of like, and it was very amusing when, what was his name? I forget his name, the guy that went on to the Daily Show kind of recently, past few weeks, and he had his book about like the liberal fascist parallel, which was ridiculous. But he did make a very valid point about how Hillary Clinton really wants this kind of like big mother state where the government really runs everything for the people and doesn't really give the people a choice in their own lives, which I think is kind of ridiculous, especially like things like how she's one of the co-sponsors with Joe Lieberman on these bills that are like banning video games for children and basically taking away the power of parents to decide what goes on in their own household with their own children, which I think is completely ridiculous and completely counter to the idea of the First Amendment. Um, and there's various other things like that. And she seems very, like, she's more willing to sacrifice things for the sake of politics and for the sake of saving face or whatever than Barack Obama, who really, while he's not a perfect candidate, he certainly is able to inspire people and bring people together, and like he's willing to actually go out there and talk to world leaders. He was criticized of being naive for that initially when he made that point in that debate. Oh, so long ago now it feels like, originally, and that he would be willing to go out there and actually talk to the leaders that we need to deal with, and then kind of more recently, people kind of like a lot of more people picked up on that. We need to emphasize diplomacy and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that he will go out there and meet with these leaders is incredibly important, because a lot of what they have to do is, I feel like, I mean, it's kind of belittling them, but I mean, they're opening themselves to this belittling treatment by the way they act as nations, or not really as nations, but as governments and as leaders. Um, you know, they're just see that the American government is going out there, has no real regard for them as actual human beings and as actual people, and that's what we have to treat people as. And I feel like Barack Obama recognizes that. He recognizes that all human beings are people. And it doesn't really seem to me that Hillary Clinton does recognize that, or really most of the candidates, most of the politicians, most of the upper class, really, anywhere, doesn't really recognize the fact that other people are people and that they have the same entitlements that they do. And really, if we recognize that people around the world are equal to us, I think that would go a really long way, and just show them respect. It will go a really long way to curbing all of the foreign policy issues that we have, even terrorism and things like that. I think that if we show the world respect, that a lot of those problems will just kind of dissolve away. And I think Barack Obama is the one to do it.